The first morning in my new house was supposed to be peaceful. Coffee, sunshine, silence. Then came the knock. 3 women stood outside matching blazers, clipboards, plastic smiles. Karen, good morning. Welcome to Maple Grove Estates. You'll need to sign your HOA membership forms. Me, I think you're mistaken. My deed says nothing about an HOA. Karen, oh, everyone's part of the HOA, dear. That's how we keep things. Controlled. Me, then control someone else. Her smile cracked. Her voice dropped. Karen, you'll regret saying that. By evening, a red eviction notice was taped to my window. Unauthorized resident vacate immediately. That's when I realized this wasn't a neighborhood. It was a kingdom, and I had just declared war on the Queen. The morning after that knock, I found Karen standing in my driveway, arms crossed, phone recording, the kind of smile that hides venom. Karen, you're making this difficult, you know. We have community standards. Me, I'm living in my house, Karen. That's not a crime. Karen, it will be when the board files for eviction. I laughed, but it wasn't funny, because within an hour, a white SUV rolled up. A man in a cheap suit stepped out, holding a stack of papers thicker than a phone book. Suit, Mr. Walker, I'm from the HOA Legal Committee. You've been cited for noncompliance, unpaid dues, violation of Section 4, and failure to obtain HOA approval for property occupancy. Me, you mean buying my house. Suit, that's not our concern, sir. Sign here or vacate within 72 hours. He shoved a clipboard at me. The neighbors peeked from their curtains, quiet, curious, terrified. That's when I realized something. Everyone here was afraid of her. I didn't sign. I tore the paper in half. Karen flinched, but her eyes didn't blink. She just smiled. Karen, you'll regret that. We always win. That night, motion lights flickered across my yard. My mailbox was smashed. Someone spray-painted outsider across my fence. I reported it, but the local cop just sighed. Officer, sir, Maple Grove HOA handles most disputes internally. My hands are tied. Me, they vandalized my property. Officer, then file a complaint. With the HOA, he left. And for the first time, I realized how deep their power ran. The next morning, the HOA held a mandatory meeting. I wasn't invited, but I showed up anyway. Karen stood at the podium, voice echoing through the community hall. Karen, this neighborhood thrives on unity. When one person refuses to cooperate, we all suffer. She looked straight at me. Unity, you mean control. Karen, you bought a house here, Mr. Walker. That means you agreed to our rules. Me, my contract says otherwise. You want rules. Try federal law. The crowd murmured, half afraid, half intrigued. Karen's eyes narrowed. Karen, if you won't comply, we'll see how long you last without water or electricity. Gasps. Whispers. I didn't respond. I just walked out slow, calm, but boiling inside. That night, I started digging. Public records, property lines, purchase history, and that's when I found it buried in the archives of the county clerk's website. My property wasn't legally under their HOA jurisdiction. They'd extended their boundaries, illegally annexed land they didn't own. Every rule, every fee, every threat was fake. I sat back in my chair, heart pounding, anger turning to cold calculation. Me voice, over, all right, Karen, you want a war, then you'll get one by the book. The next morning, I started printing documents. And when Karen's next letter showed up, I didn't tear it this time. I stapled it to my front door, right above a bold new sign, private property, not HOA land. The neighborhood fell silent. Karen's smile faded, and for the first time, she didn't know what to say. By morning, my property sign had become the neighborhood's main attraction. Cars slowed as they passed, neighbors whispered from behind hedges, and Karen stood across the street, arms folded, watching like a general before battle. The next move came fast. My power went out, then my water. The sprinklers across the neighborhood still sparkled in the sun, but my taps ran dry. I called the utility company. They said the disconnection was authorized by the HOA. Me, they don't own my land. Rep, sir, they used a shared service agreement. You'll have to resolve that with the HOA. Karen wanted me gone, but I wasn't leaving. That evening, I dragged out my generator, the one my father used on construction sites. The rumble echoed through the block like thunder. The porch lights flickered back to life. Karen appeared again, clipboard in hand, eyes burning. Karen, you can't operate that without HOA approval. Me, you can't cut my power without a court order. Karen, you're breaking neighborhood peace ordinances. Me, you're breaking the law. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. Karen, you think paperwork will save you. I am the paperwork. I smiled. Me, we'll see about that. 2 days later, I walked into the county records office. The clerk looked tired but polite as I slid a thick folder across the counter. Clerk, what are you filing? Me, petition for injunction. Maple Grove HOA is illegally enforcing authority on property not within their boundary. The clerk flipped through my documents, eyes widening. Clerk, you have the original plat map, me, and every amendment they falsified. She stamped the papers. Clerk, you might want to talk to the sheriff next. By the time I got home, a tow truck was backing into my driveway, chains hooked to my car. Me, hey, that's private property. The driver shrugged. Driver, order from the HOA non-compliant resident. I pulled out my phone, camera rolling. Me, then you'll want to tell the sheriff that because I just filed a complaint. The driver froze mid-step. Seconds later, Karen stormed up, hair flying, voice sharp enough to cut glass. Karen, you're embarrassing yourself, David. Just sign the forms, pay your dues, and leave everyone in peace. Me, you mean your peace. Karen, my neighborhood, my rules. Me, not anymore. I lifted the envelope from my pocket and handed it to her. Karen, what's this? Me, a court order, you've been served. Her face went pale. The neighbors watching from their porches went silent, me narrating. Funny thing about power, it fades fast when the law steps in. A week later, the HOA board received summons for an emergency hearing. Karen tried to stall it, claimed I was trespassing on community land, but the county records spoke louder than she ever could. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, neighbors, even the clerk who filed my papers was there. Judge, Mr. Walker, you're stating that your property was wrongfully annexed by the HOA. Me, yes, Your Honor, without consent or legal authority. Judge, and you have proof. Me, I brought the original survey and the fake one they used. Gasps echoed across the courtroom. The judge's brow tightened. Judge, MS Green, care to explain? Karen's confident tone cracked. Karen, it's standard practice. Everyone was supposed to be included. Judge, supposed to be or legally required to be. No answer. When I left the courthouse that day, cameras flashed. A local reporter called out. Reporter, Mr. Walker, how does it feel to take on the HOA? Me, I didn't take them on. I just stopped letting them take everything else. That night, I drove home under a golden sky, wind cutting through open windows, the sound of my generator still humming steady. But deep down, I knew it wasn't over, because power. Hungry people don't surrender, they retaliate. And Karen, she wasn't the type to lose quietly. For a few days, things were quiet. Too quiet. No threats, no letters, no Karen. The street felt frozen, like everyone was holding their breath. Then one morning, I stepped outside and my fence was gone. Every plank ripped out, replaced by a bright white sign, Community Reclamation Project property under HOA review. My chest burned. They'd lost in court, but she was still trying to take my land. Before I could react, 3 construction workers appeared with power tools, acting on some new order. From the HOA, me, stop, you're trespassing. Foreman, ma'am said it's community expansion. We were told it's approved. Me, approved by who? A ghost. I pulled out my phone and started recording again. Karen's car appeared seconds later, tires screeching as she stepped out, sunglasses, clipboard, and fury. Karen, you're in violation again, Mr. Walker. The board voted to repurpose this section of your land. Me, you mean steal it. Karen, you're lucky we don't have you removed. Me, you already tried that. Remember how that went. She smirked, then glanced toward the workers. Karen, keep building. He can call whoever he wants. No one listens to him anymore. But she was wrong. Because this time, someone was listening. A black SUV pulled up. 2 sheriff's deputies stepped out. Karen froze mid-sentence. Deputy, MS Green. Karen, yes. Deputy, we have a cease and desist order regarding any construction or alteration on Mr. Walker's property. You're violating a standing court injunction. The neighborhood gathered, phones out, whispering, filming. Karen tried to speak, but the deputy cut her off. Deputy, ma'am, one more violation and you'll be charged with criminal trespass and property damage. The workers dropped their tools. Karen's hand shook as she adjusted her sunglasses. Karen, this isn't over. Me, it is for you. She got in her car and sped off. A week later, the HOA board held an emergency re-election. Karen didn't show up. Word spread she'd resigned for personal reasons. But the real story was louder: the sheriff's report, the court ruling, the footage that went viral online. By the end of the month, Maple Grove HOA dissolved under state investigation. Their funds frozen. Their reputation gone. The neighborhood changed overnight. Kids played outside again. Neighbors waved from across lawns without fear. And me, I rebuilt my fence, this time with my own hands, stronger, taller, mine. When I hammered the last nail, I looked out at the horizon, the sun melting gold through the trees, and finally felt peace. Then I saw a car pull up across the street. A young couple stepped out, excited, holding a for sale flyer. The man smiled and said, "New buyer, hey, we're thinking about moving in. Anything we should know about this neighborhood?" I smiled back, me, just one thing: never sign anything with 3 women holding clipboards. He laughed, clueless, and I walked back inside. The camera pans up, sunlight flaring off the new sign on my gate: private property, not for HOA use. Some wars aren't fought with weapons, they're fought with truth and patience. Karen wanted control. But all I wanted was freedom, and in the end, that's what I kept.